Welcome to the Full Field Podcast.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have a superpower that is lifting people up.
So unfortunately, most businesses aren't going to use the highest quality ingredients.
What's your approach?
He's jacked.
I know he's jacked. That's why I'm asking him.
I don't think he lifts.
It's consistency in everything that we do that really compounds. The only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby. Let's go.
Another episode of the Full Field Podcast with your host, Matt Tack.
Alfred Alessi. Good to be
How
here.
you doing today?
What's up, brother?
Man, well, I just saw you a little while ago, so not much different. But I just got off a really cool podcast. We're in podcast mode, and we're interested in talking about some biohacks today. I don't like the term, dude. I think we listened to the same podcast one time, and I'm in full agreement that it's bioharmonization because it's not biohacking. You are not getting any younger. And I think the term hack is like intended for you to think that you're getting younger. You are never getting younger. Like, you are going to age. You can interrupt the aging process, but like, you're not hacking anything. You're like basically delaying it so that you can live a more full-field life. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that it matters that much. I like the term hacking. It just sounds cool. Like we're hacking something, right? Like it's like a cheat code, right? Like when you're using hormones or using peptides, you're using, or dude, when we use like the software technology in the office, we're using technology to hack your biology. That's what I get from it. Again, it probably doesn't matter. But I know we've both kind of been messing around with some cool stuff lately. Maybe myself a little bit more on the substance realm, but man,
You have.
some cool stuff that we got going on. One of the best things I ever invested in, and I'm not even a spokesperson for them, but that 8 sleep mattress cover is one of the best things I've ever brought
Tell
into.
them about, Tell them about like the top 3 benefits. I friggin' love the amount of benefits that are in this thing.
I literally haven't woken up like tired or groggy in months. And it's because I get such deep sleep. Man, I used to wake up every single night like wet, like sweaty. And I run hot, like I'm normally
This
warm.
guy pees the bed all the time.
That's what it was. I was just pissed all over my.
Just pee in the bed.
So this bed helped me stop peeing myself, which is fantastic. Nope. but for real, like I used to wake up sweaty, man. And it was like, I was like cleaning my sheets every single day. Like I'll be, I usually get into bed around 9:30. The bed's already cooled off for me. It taps on around 8:30 at night. There's a big pod next to the mattress. So it's a cover that goes over the mattress and it has these cooling coils in it. This is the newest technology, the Pod 4. So they fixed some of the problems that I guess I had read about on the old one that were like it would spring a leak and you wake up and your bedroom's a freaking monsoon because the 3 gallons of water or something. But I guess they fixed that, so now it's encased in a thing. But yeah, man, like there'll be times where like I've gotten home early and I'm just in bed reading around like 8:20, and I feel this thing kick on at 8:30, and it starts cooling. And when it cools real good. There's different.
Bro, that's not even the coolest thing. I personally think the coolest thing,
yeah.
I gotta buy one of these myself, is the vibration
Getting
feature to like wake you up.
It cools you to sleep. And then it goes less cold towards the middle of the night. So like gets you real cold to put you into sleep. Middle of the night, it'll kind of warm back up a little bit, but it's still cool. And then to wake up, I don't use an alarm anymore because the bed starts to warm up. I wake up to that alone. Now, if that's not enough to wake you up, it starts vibrating. And it's like, vroom, 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 and it starts to slowly get more like intense. And it's a very calming and like gentle wake up. It's one of the best things ever. Because there's nothing worse than waking up to an alarm blaring in your ear or like something that startles you awake. That's horrible. That's a cortisol spike. So that alone, and then it has an app that tracks your sleep. And so, it makes modifications over time depending on how you sleep. So basically it senses if when I'm in the middle of the night, when I'm in deeper sleep or if I'm getting woken up a lot, it'll sense that and it knows to adjust the temperature and the settings. It's freaking crazy, the autopilot mode. But man, next level. Like I feel like my recovery is fantastic. I feel like my brain works better because I'm not groggy or tired for an hour when I wake up. Just been a great investment overall.
That is a
Maybe we
freaking
should
biohack and a half.
hear shit
Yeah,
from.
that's cool. I love the idea of vibration because one thing that I started doing was I got an alarm and I put my phone out in the living room. Like I don't even I don't want it in my room because of the negative energy that it has. Like, it's
Yeah,
crazy to think about that too. Like your phone, like every time you pick up your phone, you're like, I know I need this in my hands because like maybe you're working on it or something, but it just has like this negative energy that draws out of you
you're
because it
getting.
draws so much dopamine, and then you go in this fatigue. But the one thing I do want to get back, just from a nerdy side of things, of why that's important, like why having like an efficient bed or bedding is important for sleep, is because our body goes through 3 different stages of sleep before it even touches an element of SWS and REM, which SWS is your slow wave sleep, and then REM is your rapid eye movement sleep, which is your deepest form of sleep. But what's cool about what he's talking about is that it basically is optimizing your body's temperature to stay in longer deep sleep cycles. And that is what is ultimately optimizing him the next day. So that's it, just from a nerdy side of things. Like when you can get longer, deep, like REM and slow wave sleep, you're just going to feel naturally way better the next day.
Yeah, so we did one of our original podcasts. Everyone should go back and listen to, is about those sleep cycles and why they're important. The deep sleep is when you're physically recovering. Your body is rebuilding and repairing muscle that was broken down from that day or working out or whatever. The REM sleep is where, if you think of your brain like a file cabinet, I like this analogy. Your brain's a file cabinet. Every memory, everything that you learned or processed that day is in a file that needs to be then stored. So when people have like constantly bad sleep or night after night of no sleep, you're not processing those memories. They're gone, right? Like you literally don't put them away in a file cabinet. They go away. So that's where people have like, they're like, I can't remember anything. It's like, you're not getting enough of that categorization in your brain. So REM sleep, that's where we dream, is because our brain is chucking through all these things. So oftentimes I'll find, and I've gotten really present with this and really aware with my dreams, are often something subconscious from the day before, right? Like you and I'll have a conversation about something random and it's such a little thing that's not even present, but then I dream about it and I'm like, that was weird. But I can recall from the day that, oh yeah, we talked about that for half a second and it showed up in my brain. So it's really important to get that deep sleep and that restorative, or else our brain's not recycling. It's not going to pump the cerebrospinal fluid in and out, which is really important for health of our brain, to get like toxins and everything out of there, as well as the muscle recovery, obviously. So, I mean, dude, that alone is my favorite thing I've been doing lately. Honestly, I'm
Yeah.
excited to get into bed every night. I can't wait to hop on that little ice box I got in there.
How are you optimizing your workouts? What's some of the new things that you're doing or taking pre-workout that is, you're like, man, I'm getting max benefit from this?
I mean, I'll attribute a lot of my recovery to a lot of the blood flow support stuff I've been doing. This is a Jay Campbell biohack that I hopped on, was microdosing with tadalafil, which is commonly, people know it as Cialis, the erectile dysfunction medication. But normally it's used for erectile dysfunction in a clinical case. People are going to use like a heavier dose of like 60 to 80 milligrams. I'm taking 2 milligrams a day. So it's a very microdose, but in the blood flow I've seen is crazy. I feel more vascular. I have veins popping out everywhere, but my body, when I
Bet
get
you
a, I mean, it has those benefits too, but that's an answer. No, man, the recovery is awesome. Like I'm never sore. And I know you talk about this a lot too, because you're using obviously the things like the citrulline, the stuff that we have in the Corey Van Dorn, a pre-workout, which is an awesome pump workout, pre-workout. But yeah, man, that's a big one. You're a big guy with the cognitive stuff, like the nootropics. So, I've been messing around with a little bit with those two, the mushroom coffee blend, which I think I feel more on like a daily kick if I do it rather than like just taking it once. I don't know that I really notice too much of an effect. versus when I'm doing it daily, I think I get more of like I'm just kind of naturally like flow state all the time. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I put a little bit. I actually don't put that much lion's mane in my protein drinks anymore. I don't know why. I honestly stopped that. One thing I always do is I put ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is one nootropic that I've pretty much held steady. I think it's a good root. I guess the one thing that I've done that I've seen like pretty wild from an ADH perspective of microdosing nicotine. So that's something that, whether it's like the little sleeves that I'll put in my mouth, I don't love those because they put sweetener. So they put like artificial sweeteners in there. I think they have some, I think majority of it is natural. So like they put a stevia and then they have some like food-based fibers. So I don't think it's like crazy, but it's tough to see the long-term effects of nicotine. I don't think nicotine, it's a nootropic. So I think what they're trying to research is a lot right now is like kind of the long-term effects of nicotine. Usually what impacts is nicotine is the derivative of the plant that makes you addicted to smoking. It isn't necessarily the nicotine itself that causes it. I think if you are using it without like being active, there's a little bit of hypertension that's involved with like microdosing nicotine. I haven't really seen that nearly as much. However, I will be honest with you, friggin' maybe go a little bit overboard. So I'll be like,
It
I'll
affects
be
me
honest with
hard.
the audience.
Yeah, honestly,
I do like it though, bro. It's like it's one of those things where I feel that between my TRT, it has this like mellowing edge to it. I can't really speak on the scientific side as far as like the gray matter in the brain of what it exactly does to my prefrontal lobe, but it gets me to focus. I'm not going to lie. Like when I'm focused and I got a little bit of nicotine in me, I am focused and it actually takes my urge off of a little bit more caffeine. However, I do have an issue because I love pre-workouts. Those are loaded with stem, so it's like there's caffeine in that. And then so you do have to be like I have to be conscious of that more. So I like self-evaluation here, I think is what this is. Like I got to be conscious of how much caffeine I'm taking in as well as like nicotine.
yeah,
But I do feel like it has helped me with a layer of focus and just really being intentionally present in some conversations that I really need to be intentional about.
totally. I love that. And that's kind of what I was going to go into next is like I think it's been the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, that my morning stack, I wake up, I do some kind of mindfulness stuff. I read my Bible, I do a little journaling, but then I go into the office and I have conversations all day with patients who I'm trying to connect with on an empathetic level. They're in pain. I need to be there for them on that level, right? That's a little bit deeper than just, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm there for them to connect. And honestly, where I've gotten a lot of change in that and my ability to, like you just said, to be present and be very aware of like what they're feeling and almost like connect on a vibrational level, man, is this morning stack I have. It's melanotan peptide, right? Which is the one that is, it helps with skin tanning, but when you take it intranasally, the way I'm doing it, it helps with your consciousness. It actually raises consciousness.
So that's not sub Q. That's
That's up to you. It's intranasal. Yeah, it's just a spray. I'm doing then obviously the mushroom coffee, which has the lion's mane, the reishi, the chaga.
hold on. Once I go back, is that does that have a derivative effect of similar to like insulin?
That
Like an insulin response for the nasal?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but
Really? Okay.
yeah, as far as the
Just curious. Tell us
no,
about your stack, though. I love this word. Let's go on.
yeah. So the stack is that, usually like kind of first thing in the morning when I wake up with I take some thyroid stuff. And then the mushroom coffee that I drink is the lion's mane, the chaga, the reishi. It's kind of a blend with, I think it has some ashwagandha and some maca. It's kind of a combo. I let you try it yesterday, the funky taste stuff. And then for the listeners, obviously, do your homework, but I'm doing a microdose of psilocybin too, which, man, has been next level. Cause I run anxious. Like I'm always kind of anxious, on edge. I feel like that's just kind of how I tend. That's just childhood stuff. Man, it mellows that out. And when I'm in that moment with that patient and we're connecting, man, the last 2 weeks, I've seen a profound change in how I'm communicating with people. They can feel that I'm not just trying to sign them up for our program. I'm not just trying to sell them something. I'm there to help them. Right. And you've seen it like on the numbers, like everyone's signing up. Like I'm not even feel like a salesman. I'm just, hey, this is what we're here to do. I'm here to help you. This is a plan. Like, let's go. And people are just on board. And so I think they can feel that, right? People aren't stupid. They can tell when you're on a deeper level of vibrational connection. It's been good, man. I'm really digging what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, to even go back to all those are all considered nootropics, everything that you mentioned. And I think that in so many ways throughout the day, with technology the way it is, whether we're even looking at it, holding it, being around it, it's pulling out a frequency out of us. Whether we know it or not, there's the frequency that's coming out. And so then it's like your ability to really understand of how to like get back to neutral as fast as possible, right? And it's really hard to do but there's obviously things that you can utilize in today's world, technology, they're not drugs.
Right.
They're not drugs. You can call them smart drugs. I guess that's what nootropics are, smart drugs. But they're not meant to be harmful to your body, is what I'm saying, or harmful to your brain. But then utilizing those to be like, wow, it takes away these and allows me to experience presence. There's a book called The Power of Now. I don't know if anyone's ever read that, but The Power of Now is one of those books that that is what brings you to the present. And if you truly have every conversation as if it's like, hey, I'm talking to you right now, nothing else matters. People feel that vibration, that vibrational frequency. They're like, dude, I'm literally the only person in his life right now, which that's the reality. Like, and when people feel that, man, they feel there's a sense of peace and confidence about that.
Yeah, and these nootropics or smart drugs, whatever you want to call them, especially lion's mane, the research shows it makes your body produce BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which regrows neurons or it rebuilds neural pathways. So not only are you enhancing your cognition in the moment, but long term, I think when you're on something like this for term period, you're creating these new neural branches. Every time you have a conversation or even a thought, right, your brain is creating neural pathways. And so if you can stimulate it to make these more permanent, you can use this as a way to rewire your thinking too. So, if anyone's trying to get into more of like a mindfulness or a meditation practice or something like that, where they're like, man, I want to become more present and I want to adapt a new habit, lion's mane or anything that's BDNF producing can help you with that, because it's going to let you boost your ability to create these new neural pathways that help with habit formation.
It's huge.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Another thing that I would call a nootropic, kind of, but it's a nootropic habit, is creating a habit that allows, there's a sense of curiosity in it. So I've been practicing Spanish. And so when you're learning like new words every day, like a different language, it basically puts your body in like this almost like parasympathetic, where it's like, I have to learn. There's a level of curiosity in it. And I truly believe everyone should be like trying to learn another language or learn something new in that capacity. That kind of takes you outside. It almost puts you in an elementary mode, like learning. And so that's what Spanish does for me. So I've been practicing Spanish, and it's kind of like a hack that I've created for myself. So to not really like waste time inefficiently, but waste time efficiently, because there's that, maybe I might be able to use it someday. I do use it somewhat frequently, I guess, to people that can speak Spanish, and that I'll work on it. I'm definitely not fluent by any means, but I think that's one hack that I would call a biohack that has really helped me and an element of like curiosity that is just, it puts me into elementary mode. Like the more often you can put your brain in some sort of like elementary foundation where it's like becomes very rudimentary, that I have to like expose some level of curiosity out of it. It's helped me. It's been massively beneficial.
The term is novelty stimulus. So the same way we talked about with exercise in the past episode, I believe, as well, right? Like when you've been doing the same routine forever, there's no novelty stimulus. Your brain and your body don't have to do anything. They don't have to work that hard. Your body's just going to do the same thing. The gains and the results become less and less over time. So when you shift it up, right? Like say you go from 1 month of strength training to a month of more hypertrophy training, to a month of more HIIT circuit training, to a month of or aerobic cardio training, then back into strength training, that novelty stimulus month after month keeps your brain muscle connections sharp and strong. It engages parts of the brain that you're not, normally working on. So that's a smart drug in itself. You're really, a drug is anything that is exogenous that you put into the body that's going to affect it. Anything could be a drug. Caffeine's a drug, right? Like any of this stuff.
Caffeine's a nootropic.
Yeah. Yes. Drugs, right? So, but yeah, that concept is the same for, exercise as it is for, brain exercise, which obviously learning a language totally is. The same with like those, I love those apps. Actually, I used to have one for when I found myself like scrolling on Instagram. I was like, I would open this other app, forget what it was called, but you would play these games. They were just games.
Oh.
I think it's that one. That's the one that that's the one that filters your time.
Yeah, that's the
Box apps. This is I'll look it up, but it was just games, and you'd be playing these games, but they were like kind of strategy, That's a great one. Like so you think you're wasting time just playing games, but you're actually strengthening your brain and getting smarter and kind of processing stuff, which is cool. That's a good
brain food.
Brain food.
That's ultimately what creates like that neuroplasticity. So you create that that neuroplasticity within the brain. Anytime you're learning something new, there's those hedonic hotspots. What's cool is that constantly throughout the day, even in podcast setting, you are a circulation of thought. So you have all these feedback loops, and every time everyone says something, all you're doing is interpreting it, whether it's true or false. Like it's true or false. Is this true or is this false? And then what you perceive as true, you try to bank. Luminosity. I've heard of that.
Luminosity. Yeah. It's a cool one, man.
Used it. Yeah, it's good. But then if it's false, right, you're likely not to bank that as obviously a long-term, that's false,
Yeah.
So it's less penetratable to the reticular activating system. But I love the idea of how we process thought and like kind of how we experience truth versus narrative. Like it's like all these things in this political agenda that we have going on in the world today of like people just want to be one-sided. There's this guy that posted something on, both of us lean more conservative, obviously. So, some guy like posted something. My mom was watching which I don't watch a ton of TV, but my mom was watching the debate, and I was like, holy shit, he's getting smoked. I was like, this dude is not prepared at all. And then you see, like, afterwards, you see all the Republicans, like, take one side, and then, their versus truth. Oh, it's like, he was horrible, or she was horrible, and she was going after him. It's like, no, he was like extremely unprepared, got smoked. And then I was like dialoguing real quick, and I was like, I gotta get off of this. But like, they're saying Kamala Harris had earrings with like microphones in them, like trying to pull out everything, ridiculous stuff.
Said that about
because
Biden 4 years ago, because he would do this. He did like the classic, like a freaking secret agent. He would like touch his ear, and then he would answer the question. I'm like, okay, that's obvious that maybe he's doing something, or his dude's just got an itchy ear. I don't know,
or he's got an itchy. But like, how could that, number one? How can that help you all that much? Like, it's like, okay, in the moment, like, that like the 5 seconds before I know an answer, you're hearing him respond anyway. It's a debate. Like what? I don't even think that's like even a competitive advantage. But anyways, I thought it was ridiculous. It going back to the point of like perceiving truth versus narrative, or true versus false. You know, we're going to collect it based on our biases, right? And so then it becomes how we're just like perceiving, like it's everything too. Like how we're talking, we push this out into the world. Somebody's going to gather this information. They're like, is that true? Is that not true? Am I gonna take that and implement it, or am I not? Like, there's a lot of stuff. One thing I do like about us at the end of the day is like we are the guinea pigs. Like we freaking try it all.
Yeah, and that's where like I think so many people can get super dogmatic. You know, like they're strict carnivore, or they're strict vegan, or they're strict evidence based. Like, oh, if the evidence and the studies don't show, I'm like, dude, there had to be studies done in the first place. So like nothing is always proven, right? And my take on that is like, if you do something and there's no studies, but it works for you, then it freaking works for you. You should do it. Do what makes you happy. You know what I mean? Just because the studies don't prove it, or, you know, the evidence based isn't there. Like, I don't know that 100% always rules something out. Now, is it nice to have a little bit of info that says, hey, this has been proven to work for people of all different ages, sizes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's cool. Then that gives you a little bit more like clout. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you and I try, I'll try anything twice, right?
Try anything twice.
And if it works for you, then you freaking roll with it, man. And if it works for a time and then it wears off and it stops, then you stop doing it. But
that's actually a great point that you're saying, that is that everything will stop. Like, you should not be really taking stuff for extremely long periods of time, because naturally your body will adapt. So Peter Attia talks actually a lot about that, how there needs to be intermittent cycles. Like there needs to be a pause period where then you can recycle back on things, because your body naturally becomes like a habit of that formation, and the placebo of that will eventually become stale. You were talking about that novelty stimulus, right? There's no more novelty to it. Therefore, the placebo rolls off, and there's a big element of placebo that works into like literally anything you're taking, right? You're like, my pre-workout, same thing. If you're on the same pre-workout and not adjusting things, like eventually there will be like that novelty stimulus and that placebo of like, dang, I get a crazy pump from that. That'll eventually probably wear off a little bit. Your body will adapt. You probably should maybe even lay low on, you know, doing a pre-workout and then hop back into it a little bit later, or try up a different one. You gave me that one kinetic, and I was like, dang, this is good. And it had much of a slower rise because it was like more mushroom based. There wasn't as much beta alanine built into it. And so it was a slow rise versus this like, whereas like Corey Van Dorn is like freaking, you get this like massive jack pump. You're just like fully alert on it right away. So that's a great point though, because there's this element of placebo and that novelty stimulus that's eventually is going to wear off.
Yeah. And that's the success mindset that I talk about in the clinic all the time. Like someone comes in, they've had low back pain for 6 years. Even if they feel hopeless and like, you know, it's going to be a slow road ahead of them, I'm like, hey, you got to buy in. Like you have to be bought in to everything. If you want success in it, you got to be bought in, or else your mind is going to trick you into thinking you're in pain still, right? Because people don't want to have that hope that like, oh, I do feel better. They're like, no, I don't. I'm in pain. This is a lost cause. And then their body feels pain. It's a psychosomatic effect. But, you know, speaking of cycles, man, when is that trend coming in? I'm just kidding. No, like, but I agree, cycling, because when you're taking 4 scoops of a pre-workout to get the same dose or effect that you did when you started and you took half, it's time to take a break for a bit, take a few weeks off, then you'll get back on and you'll feel a lot better, or you'll feel it again. So I was always that guy, man. I'd be like, oh shit, it's not working as much. Let me take 3 scoops and see what happens.
Yeah, 3 more scoops. Take it all. Oh, man. We'll be running for about 30 minutes now. You know, those are some of the cool things that we've been experimenting with. You know, we covered everything from your bed sheets to optimizing your sleep to pretty much pre-workouts, placebo, and then Dr. Alessi even put you through what he does for his stack. So one of the big things for me is just getting the proper protein in. I get the fats and proteins in early in the day. That's something that I love to do. Well, that's another little biohack. It's just optimizing your nutrition. I know you can go back to prior episodes on how we really lock in and dial in that nutrition, but that's something that needs to be first and foremost on how you're operating.
I would say I recommend you go back and listen to the sleep episode. It was really cool, really good, and educates people on like why sleep is so important, really, but how to hack that and optimize it. As always, this episode is sponsored by Alessi Functional Health, your leading source for chiropractic wellness and recovery services in Tampa Bay, Florida. We're also going to shout out to Vandor Nutrition. We mentioned them, and let's shout out Nutrition Solutions. That's where we get our high protein, high quality meals. You can use the code FULLFUELED15 for 15% off your first order from Nutrition Solutions.
And as always, live full fueled, baby. Live beyond limits. Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have a superpower that is lifting people up.
So unfortunately, most businesses aren't going to use the highest quality ingredients.
What's your approach?
Dude's jacked.
I know he's jacked. That's why I'm asking him what he trains.
I don't think he lifts.
It's consistency in everything that we do that really compounds. Only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby.